The Medal of Honor series, Lessons of Core Values, is a production of the Army Heritage Center Foundation. The series sponsors include the Qualix team, Qualix and Iron Mountain. Qualix Corporation provides support services for the federal markets in the areas of information management and mission-oriented programs. For over 60 years, Iron Mountain has provided full lifecycle information management solutions that accelerate digital transformation for Fortune 100 companies, governments, and educational institutions all over the globe. And the Pritzker Military Museum and Library of Chicago, established by Colonel Retired Jennifer Pritzker, is a nonpartisan institution dedicated to the study of the citizen soldier as an essential element for the preservation of democracy. This specific program is sponsored through the generous donations of members of the Board of Directors of the Army Heritage Center Foundation. Our host is Colonel Retired Tom Vossler. Tom is a combat veteran of the Vietnam War, a past director of the U.S. Army Military History Institute, a licensed battlefield guide at Gettysburg National Military Park, and an author of 4 books on the Civil War. Our guest today is Colonel Retired Joe Marm. Upon graduating from Duquesne University in 1964, he decided to enlist and attended Officers Candidate School and the Army Ranger School before receiving his assignment with the 1st to the 7th Cavalry, 1st Cavalry Division, Airmobile. The division's mission was to deploy the Army's first airmobile troops to Vietnam and to test the use of helicopters to insert troops directly into combat. By September 1965, Marm was in the Republic of Vietnam. On November 14th, during the Battle of Ia Drang, Marm was serving as platoon leader of 2nd Platoon, Alpha Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division. His unit advance slowed due to an enemy assault. He single-handedly destroyed an enemy machine gun position and several of its defenders, suffering severe wounds in the process. Marm survived his wounds and was awarded the Medal of Honor in December of 1966 for his actions during the battle. Colonel Marm discussed the value of sacrifice.
Well, good evening, everyone. Tom Vossler here from my farm just outside the Gettysburg battlefield. Welcome to all of you to our 7th in this series of programs on the Medal of Honor core values. And this will be our last one in the series, but we do have a surprise announcement here at the end of tonight's program to tell you about, so hang on for that. So we're very pleased tonight to have Joe Marm with us. Now, Joe's got quite a story to tell, and my part of it is that Joe and I go back to our last assignment, nearly our last assignment in the Army, 30 years of service for both of us. We served in the same command. We knew of each other, and we did not serve a long time together, but certainly we old soldiers go back that far. Is that right, Joe? We go back that far.
That's for sure.
So
yes.
Yeah. Well, we're interested in your story tonight. So tell us a little bit first about growing up. I mean, what was your background as a child? Where'd you grow up? And tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I grew up in western Pennsylvania, a town called Washington, PA, the home of the Whiskey Rebellion and the home of Pony League Baseball, which is for 13 and 14-year-olds. And so my father was a state trooper in Pennsylvania, and they didn't make a lot of money back then. Back then, troopers did everything. He gave driver's tests, he patrolled, he did detective work, and he spent 30 years in the state police. But growing up, I make ends meet, and the money I caddied on a small 9-hole golf course, and I delivered papers, first of all, when I was a little bit younger, sweeping up and washing the windows. And so that gave me a little bit of pocket money to get through high school. I was also a Boy Scout, which is very important to me. I did make Eagle. My oldest son did make Eagle. I made Life. And I really enjoyed going camping on the weekends. And then the summer, you know, the summer weekly time at our camp. And I also went to Philmont, the Scout Ranch in Texas one year. That was very unique too. So,
yeah.
And my father being a shot on the rifle team, or the pistol team, he got me involved in rifle shooting. I was on a rifle team called Fraser Simplex in high school. And then I shot for 3 years at Duquesne University with the ROTC sergeants who were our instructors. And they said, Marm, you're going to get drafted. Why don't you enlist under this college option program? So that's what I did. 5 days after I graduated in '64, I was heading by train down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, got all my gear, and then went down to Fort Gordon for basic training and advanced individual training. And there are a bunch of other college graduates there too, because we were the first group to go through OCS, which was more geared for the the sergeants who had been in the Army for a while, and the OCS was more geared for them. So we were trying, and they needed officers, so they sent us, and we had a pretty good graduation rate because we were together in basic and AIT, and they gave us some extra courses at night to get us through OCS, which is very tough. It was 6 months long, very, very tough course. We had to spit on our floors every day, and spent a lot of time, out in the woods and shooting, and just a great experience for me, but very tough.
Indeed, very tough. And I didn't go through the OCS experience, but I did some training when I came back from Vietnam. I was in the weapons department at the infantry school and running the OCS companies through the training process, because we were still sending in 1970, 71, still sending troops to Vietnam. So I'm kind of familiar with the OCS program. So you're going to be selected out then as potential leadership skills have already shown through as a young man, and there in the basic and AIT. Is that right? They kind of picked you out?
That's for sure, yes. Our battalion commander was Colonel Bob Nett, who was a World War II Medal of Honor recipient, and he led by example. Everywhere in the battalion area we had double time. And this is with combat boots on and fatigues. We didn't have, we didn't have any PT uniforms back then.
Right.
We did our all PT in our combat gear. I mean, in our boots and fatigues, and we took off our shirt and we're in our t-shirts.
I remember the
OCS event PT test too.
I remember the OCS classes marching to class and in Building 4 Infantry Hall. And each candidate had a clipboard, and on the back of the clipboard was a bumper sticker that read "Win in Vietnam," and I remember that. So everyone knew where they were going. That was pretty sure. So you're going to end up in what will become the 1st Cavalry Division. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Another interesting feature. I went through basic with the M1 rifle and went through AI advanced individual training with the M14 rifle, and then in OCS we carried the M16, which is a brand new rifle then. So that's very unique to have experience with all 3 of those weapons that the Army has used over the years.
Well, I think that's that's all part of your unique story. I said that's all part of your unique story.
I was in Ranger School, and we had a formation. Like I said, Ranger School was a very tough, very tough course. 9 weeks long. You're out patrolling in the woods and the jungles for nine straight weeks. And we were in the last phase in Florida, and they called out about 40 names and said your orders are now changed. You're going to a unit up at Fort Benning that was it was called the 11th Air Assault. That was later became the 1st Cav, but they were testing the helicopters in war games against the 101st and the 82nd in the Carolinas, and they proved to be very successful. They're able to outmaneuver those other 2 units, and so that was they brought the colors of the 1st Cav back from Korea and redesignated our unit the 1st Cav Division Airmobile. we had over 400 helicopters to get us around in the battle area, and we had about 15,000 troops that we deployed to Vietnam too.
So,
and it took us a whole month to get. We left from we left in August of '65. The advance party of the division flew over, and we had to. The whole division went over on ships. We went over on a World War II merchant marine ship called the USS Maurice Rose. All the helicopters went over on aircraft carriers. And one of the commanders took his mule that they gave, that the troops gave him as a gag gift, and he called her after. He named it after his wife Maggie, and so Maggie was there for a while in Vietnam with us. He also started the Stetson, the army hat called the Stetson. The general didn't like that, so he told him to take the Stetson off, and he went back and talked to his troops and came back and talked to the general. He said, "Sir, can we wear the Stetson for ceremonial occasions?" The general scratched his head and said, "Okay, you can wear the Stetson for ceremonial occasions." And it turned out everything was a ceremonial occasion, so they kept wearing it. But it wasn't, we were wearing baseball caps, all the other troops, but the recon units, the 1st to the 9th Cav, they had ground troops and air troops. Air Cav and ground troops they wore the Stetson quite a bit. Not in Vietnam, but in garrison.
in garrison, right. What became a Maggie the Mule?
Pardon?
What became of Maggie the Mule? The mule. Did you end up beating her?
One night. Maggie, the general didn't want her in the Chinook helicopter, the big helicopter. So he had Colonel Stockton put Maggie under his command ship, Huey, and slung-load Maggie up to our base camp in On Cay. That was named Camp Radcliffe after one of the first helicopter pilots that was killed during our in Vietnam. He went down before we got there, so we named our base camp after him, which is very special. Camp Radcliffe.
And that
whole
camp
division was there at On Cay, cut out and carve out all of the fields of fire, and we were in pup tents initially too, two man World War II pup tents. It's pretty primitive, but as it got better, we got wall tents, and finally we started building permanent structures, at On Cay. It was pretty primitive at first, as you can imagine. So.
Yeah. I remember some of those camps even when I got there.
My unit was very, very good. I had draftees and enlist, guys that volunteered, but they'd been working together in training in the air assault with the 1st Cav for many months before we deployed. So I had a very good unit to link up with. I was with them a month before we deployed by boat. So that was unique to get to meet them and get to learn to know them, and of course, it was very, very good.
So you're going to spend some time with them before you deploy, and then you're not going to be in country too long before you're going to be sent out on a mission into the Ia Drang Valley, right? The battalion, 1st to the 7th Cav.
Yes, we got there about mid-September, left in mid-August, and got there about 31 days on the ship. We shut off the tail we put some big wooden pilots on with cable on the back of the ship, and so we were able to shoot our weapons off of the back of the ship, which was good. Our 3 main weapons were our M16. They gave me two M14 sniper weapons that I gave to my 2 best shots in my platoon, which was unique. And I had the M79 grenade launcher and the M60 machine gun. Plus we had grenades and you know, and the light anti-tank weapon called the LAW, L-A-W, light anti-tank weapon. It's a tank killing weapon, which is very, very, very good. We had a couple of those in our platoon too.
In the platoon, then how many men? How many men do you have in the platoon?
How many men?
How many men in the platoon?
Our platoon is T&E's 43. I had about 33 by the into the battle. Some were you know, some were back from malaria, you know, back in the rear.
Right.
So, you know, a whole battalion about 650, and we went into the battle with 457. So each company is a little bit light. It's tough to be up to battles, you know, up to T&E's battle strength. You know, so but we were very, I had all my platoon sergeants. I had one had been in Korea, you know, and just they all had a lot of experience. My E5s and 6s.
Mike, can we have that first slide, please? We'll just give our viewers a chance to see you as a second lieutenant in the 1st Cavalry Division, and you're a member of the 7th Cavalry Regiment. Very famous outfit in history. A long distinguished record. I've depicted here on the map our previous Vietnam Medal of Honor recipients that we've interviewed on the program, and kind of circled their location. And we got Joe here on the map as well. Now you can see pretty big country, Vietnam. So the recipients on this program pretty well spread out, but also spread out in time. And I didn't put the years up there, but Joe's is 1965, November 1965. And the first of the 7th is going to be given a mission to go into the Ia Drang Valley. We've got, they had some intelligence on what was there, and the entire battalion is going to go into an operation that's going to turn out to be the first major battle between U.S. and North Vietnamese units. These were not the Viet Cong units that we had been fighting elsewhere, but the North Vietnamese Army is going to be the enemy in their operation in November of 1965. So tell us a little bit about getting ready for this operation. What did you know, and what were you thinking at the time?
Well, we were, you know, the 7th Cav is, the lineage goes back to General George Armstrong Custer at the Little Bighorn. And we didn't know how many enemy were there, but they were primarily, they'd come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail and were looking, well, we captured one. He said they're looking early on, and he said, we're looking to kill Americans. So we were outnumbered by, they had 3 regiments of about 3,000, and we had 457. But we had a lot of assets that they didn't have. You know, we had all the whole division ready to help us out with air support and B-52 strikes, and we had a lot of assets that the North Vietnamese didn't have. But it was, you know, we went in the morning of it was a Sunday morning on the 14th of November.
Mike, second slide, please.
Pardon me?
Mike's going to put up another slide here. There. LZ X-ray, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There you are. So here's a photograph of the area they're going to be inserted on the 14th. And allegedly, these are actual pictures of the operation. And we put a little map. I put a little map there to indicate the landing zone at the base of the Chu Pong mountain area, from which the enemy is going to emerge and in intensive combat. And Joe, back to you, and give us an idea what was going on here.
The landing zone was called, General Moore named it LZ X-ray. Pretty famous, you know, name, and it was an 8-ship LZ. which was, so and the first company in was Bravo Company, and I was in Alpha Company. We were the second company in. So Bravo Company started checking the perimeter out and started, started looking for the enemy. And in one of the platoons, led by another OCS classmate named Henry Herrick, got surrounded. They went after the enemy, and the enemy were able to surround them. And so, and the rest of the company, the rest of Bravo Company had to pull back. And we got in there, and that was our mission, to get that platoon out of there that day. We didn't make it that day, but we made 2 attempts to get up to that platoon. My platoon was assigned to B Company, and we made that first attempt. We were taking a lot of casualties and heavy fire, so we pulled back, and we prepped our front with artillery and mortar fire to make a second attempt towards the latter part of the day. By then it was getting close. It was about civilian time, about 4:30. And so we wanted to get up there to pull them out before it got dark. And one interesting story, a runner from the company commander came over and talked to me and said, the battalion commander's been wounded, you're in charge. And I says, oh boy, just like Ranger School, they put you in a difficult, in a command position at a difficult time. So I told my platoon sergeant to take over. I was going to go over and take over the company. And so I went over to the company command post, and there was Captain Tony Nadal talking on the telephone. And boy, my heart was really relieved that he was still alive. I missed the first word, if the commander gets wounded or killed, you're in charge. So I went back and rejoined my platoon, and we started our movement forward. 2 companies, Bravo Company and Alpha Company, trying to get up to that platoon, and there was when you think of Vietnam, you think of heavy jungle, but this was elephant grass, shrubs and trees. It wasn't heavy jungle, and the elephant grass was about waist high, so the enemy could see us if we stood up, and we could see them too. They were in their pith helmets and khaki uniforms, and we were in our combat gear too. So it was, and they had their bayonets fixed. So our company commander said, "Fix bayonets." So we did. We put our bayonets on our M16 rifle, so we were ready to duel with them if we had to. But so we started forward, and we were making progress, but it was slow. And right in front of my position was this real big solidified rock anthill, like a termite anthill, about 7 feet tall, with shrubs and trees around it. And so I had one of my men, that was our main obstacle in front of my platoon. There were bad guys up in trees and other places to our front, but I said, okay, shoot that light anti-tank weapon called a law, shoot that law into him, into that bunker. So he tried, but it didn't go off because of all the humidity and moisture in Vietnam, in our area. So I took it from him and I rearmed it. I closed it up and I opened it up again and I put it on my shoulder and shot it into, and it went off for me. And it really picked up our morale because it made a big cloud of dust and smoke, and we thought we had done some damage. We probably did some, but not a whole lot. We started moving forward again, and we're taking more casualties. And so I told one of my men to take using sign language, because of all the battle noise, using sign language to go up there and throw a grenade over the top. And he thought I meant throw it from where we're at, and it landed in front, and because of the shrubs and the trees, and didn't go over and didn't do much damage. So rather than waste any more time, I told my men to hold their fire, don't shoot me up. And I ran across about 30 meters of open terrain, got to the bunker and threw a grenade over the top, and then went around to the left side with my my M16, and there were some more bad guys that were trying to shoot me, and I was able to silence them with my M16. When it was silenced, I turned to my men and I told him, "Come on, let's go. We got to get to the platoon." And they started to move forward, but someone, as I had stood up, someone from further in the background, not from that that machine gun, or not from that bunker, shot me in the jaw. Went in my left jaw, deflected downward, and came out underneath my right jaw. Missed my jugular vein by an inch or two, and you know, I'm very fortunate that that happened, because I would have bled out had it hit a jugular vein. So a couple of men helped me. I was a walking wounded. A couple of men helped me back to the battalion command post where we were taking the wounded, and we were evacuating the wounded with they were, you know, with Hal Moore, or our two helicopters, Bruce Crandall and Ed Too Tall to Fly Freeman. There were the two ships that were coming in, bringing us ammunition and mortar, ammunition and water and mortar, and taking out the wounded. So that was very special. They still continued to try to get up to that platoon, but they didn't make it that night. They pulled back, and we put a defensive position all around our position that night. And but I was evacuated. Our battalion, one of the flights coming in, the only embedded reporter we had, Joe Galloway, who co-authored the book, "We Were Soldiers Once and Young," with the battalion commander Hal Moore, came in that night, and he took a lot of the pictures that you see in the combat. He did both, recorded and took pictures of what was going on at the battle scene for the next couple of days. And the next morning, another company walked in, 2-5 2nd of the 5th Cav come in, and 2nd of the 7th was choppered in. And so we had a lot of help on that second day. And B Company and 2nd of the 5th, a company from that unit, went up that second day on Monday the 15th to get to the platoon that was trapped. And when they got up there, my OCS classmate Herrick was killed. His platoon sergeant, who was a Korean War vet, was also killed, and a young buck sergeant, E5 sergeant named Ernie Savage, took over, and he put a ring of steel around his position. He was a mortar sergeant, so he knew how to, you know, he called in artillery and mortar fire all around his position, and they withstood 3 attacks the night before, and were able to hold themselves without getting. They had 12 wounded and about 7 killed and 8 able-bodied men to hold that position. And and we got up to them the next day, and they were evacuated by the company. He earned the Distinguished Service Cross along with the medic Doc Lose, who helped save and took care of the wounded in that platoon. And they were pulled back and evacuated. But that morning, Bravo Company, they took some serious ground attacks in the battalion perimeter, and they lost about 40% of their men killed and wounded. Their company commander, Captain Bob Edwards, was wounded and recuperated with me in Valley Forge Army Hospital in Pennsylvania. And so, but they withstood the attack, and they didn't penetrate our lines. The other interesting thing, second of the 7th, Rick Rascola's company took that position, and that they had another attack the third morning, and they did a tremendous job, because they had the enemy, you know, they really did a good job on, you know, keeping the enemy out of there. Rick Rascola, he's another OCS classmate of mine, and he's on the cover of the book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young. And he's quite famous. He came to America. He was in the British Army. He came to America, joined our army, and went to OCS with us, and just was a great leader in combat. and earned the Silver Star, would sing to his troop in some of the British Gaelic songs that he knew and keep them cool in combat. And he's what America's all about. He got out of the Army after his time was up. I thought he'd stay in and make colonel or general, but he got out and got his college degree, got his law degree, and he worked his way up corporate America. And he was head of security for Morgan Stanley in the South Tower, 2001. And North Tower got hit first, and the South Tower came on the intercom, everything is okay, stay in place. He said, BS, we're getting out of here. And he ordered all the employees of Morgan Stanley out of the building. And he's credited with saving over 2,700 lives of Morgan Stanley employees. Went back in like a good leader to make sure the building was clear, and it went down first, and his body was never recovered. President Trump, about a year or so ago, gave his wife, Sue Riscola, the Presidential Citizens Medal for his actions in the South Tower. So that's a very unique story too.
Well, that's a unique story.
But we were.
I say that's a unique story on sacrifice on his part.
For sure it is.
What does I mean, sacrifice, that's our featured core value tonight. What sacrifice through your stories now, I think we can see it, but what more would you have to say about sacrifice?
In the military, we think of sacrifice as, giving your life or losing a limb for your fellow troops. But sacrifice, it's giving of yourself, to your fellow students, if you're a young guy or a young girl, or just giving of yourself to others. Sacrificing your time. Many military guys go off from their families, and they're sacrificing time away from family. So that's what sacrifice is all about, just giving of yourself to others.
To include putting consideration for others ahead of your own needs and that kind of thing. I think that, yes, that sums it up. And that's one of the core values that we espouse to in the military. That's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is the sacrifice that we make on behalf of others. And so for the audience, we're going to go into a question and answer period here in about 10 minutes. And so if you've got some questions, go into the chat feature at the bottom of the screen and type in your questions, and Tim Nelson will receive those, and we'll go into a Q&A here in just a few minutes. We've got some more. I've got a couple more questions that I'm going to ask Joe to speak on. And so if I get the scenario right, of course, you're going to be evacuated because of the severity of your wounds, and you're going to spend some time in Valley Forge Military Hospital back here in the States. How long was that? About 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months. My mouth was wired shut. I was on because of for my bone to heal on my jawbone on my left side, and I was on a baby food diet for about 3 months. They gave me on the way over by aircraft from Vietnam to to Valley Forge. They gave me a pair of military scissors in case I had to. In case I needed to vomit, I could cut the scissors, and I wouldn't die in my own barf.
Well, that's looking ahead.
I made it okay. I didn't the bullets. But
now,
I spent 3 months at Valley Forge. Yep, go ahead.
After Valley Forge, they gave you a real easy assignment, didn't they?
Yeah, they saw I was a bachelor, so they sent me up to the Mountain Ranger camp. I went down to Fort Benning and thought I'd be doing something down there, but there aren't many houses in the mountain up in Dahlonega, which is in North Georgia. It's a very small town. And so they sent me up there, and I lived on the BOQ for a while, then moved to a trailer for a while. But that was a unique experience to be up there working with the Army Rangers. They're very, very, very good instructors, and it's a tremendous course that the Army has.
For the audience, it's one thing to be a soldier student in the Ranger School. It's another thing to be a cadre member in the Ranger School. So that was a choice assignment. Where were you then, Joe, when you got word that you were going to receive the Medal of Honor? Where were you? What were you doing? What were you thinking?
I was up at the mountain.
Word about it.
I got a letter from my company commander, and he said he's going to put me in for a very high award. So I went down to a bunch of military veterans went down for an awards ceremony at a minor league baseball game in Florida, and I received the Silver Star. I said, wow, that's a very high award. That's the third highest, underneath the Distinguished Service Cross and the Medal of Honor. And so I thought that was it, but I had a call from a reporter who said that they were putting me in for the Medal of Honor, and he asked me what I did. So I told him what I did, and he wrote it. He did a very nice article and very nice story in a men's magazine called Saga. It was a very, very good article. But then I found out later from the officials that I was going to receive the medal. And I went up to my hometown and flew down with all my family and relatives from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., and were there for 3 days. I was very early. I was the 7th recipient of 262 from Vietnam. It was given to me by the Secretary of the Army, Stanley Reeser.
Mike,
a very
next
nice
slide.
outside ceremony on a cold December day in 19 December 1966. That's 13 months after the battle. And some of my, the troops that I served with in the battle were at the ceremony. And there were 2 Medal of Honor recipients there, Colonel Nett, my battalion commander, and Major General Keith Ware, who was Chief of Public Affairs and who was later killed as a commander of the 1st Infantry Division when he went back over to Vietnam. He was a World War II recipient. And so it was a very nice ceremony, and I was shaking in my boots, not because of the cold, because being around so many military brass, from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who was General Wheeler then, to General Johnson, who was the Army Chief of Staff, and all these VIPs, plus civilian congressmen and senators had come from my home state of Pennsylvania to be there and watch the ceremony. So it was very, very nice to be, and the other interesting thing is Barney Barnum, who received his medal a couple of months later from the Secretary of the Navy, he said that we were the only 2 living recipients. There were 100 living recipients from Vietnam of the 262. We were the only 2 living Medal of Honor recipients that didn't get our medals from the president, which it was President Johnson at that time, and this was in '66, and Vietnam was just starting to get bigger, and he wanted to keep Vietnam, didn't want to make a lot of news and publicity about Vietnam, so he had the Secretary of the Army present me mine, and the Secretary of the Navy present Barney Barnum his. He was a Marine from, in Vietnam a little bit after my action. Now, the other 2 helicopter pilots got the medal later, Bruce Crandall and Ed Two-Tail-to-Fly Freeman. And it's the only battle in Vietnam where there were 3 Medal of Honor recipients. So that's unique too. I was able to go to their ceremonies. They didn't get their medals until, the book or the movie had come out, and Ed Freeman got his, and I have a picture up on my wall behind me that there's about 35 recipients went to that ceremony. We had a picture taken with President Bush outside the White House with all of the recipients there. So that's very unique. Then Bruce Crandall got his later, And Bruce is still alive, and Ed has passed away a few years ago. So they were great Americans and great soldiers.
And their stories are included in the book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young. And I'm going to come back to that at the end of the program. But yeah, that was that action was just full of, it was one of the first, as I say, one of the first big contacts that we had with the North Vietnamese and got things started. And do you regret President Johnson not being there for doing your presentation? You ever think about it?
I've been asked that question before. I met him on different occasions. Every year they would have a military reception, and
Sure.
we were invited. All the recipients were invited there for those functions. So that was very, very unique. And I have some pictures of all the recipients with that President Johnson signed, and Lady Bird Johnson signed also. So that's unique.
Yeah.
So.
You know, Joe,
I've met, that we get invited, the recipients get invited every 4 years to all the inaugurations. So then they have an inaugural ball where all the veterans will go, and usually the president or the vice president will show up for a few minutes and meet and talk with all the veterans that are there. So that's very nice.
well, that's good that
cool.
they can get you all together like that.
Pardon me?
I say it's good they can get you all together like that. Band of brothers, right?
We're down to 69 living recipients now. So that's 2 from World War II, 4 from Korea, 48 from Vietnam, and 15 of the new recipients. So that's unique.
Right.
So that's, yeah, when I got the medal, we had over 250. Some were prior to World War I.
Right.
Well, our numbers have gone down. Of a total of, there's been over 3,500 total recipients. And you can talk about them a little bit later too.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say time marches on through the Hall of Heroes, and there we have it. In our audience out here today, as in previous programs, we have a lot of young people enrolled in leadership programs like junior and senior ROTC, the Marine Corps League, Boys and Girls Clubs. What advice, Joe, would you have to give to them on their leadership development, on their individual growth and development?
They're very, very good programs, all the ones that you mentioned. And they can be anything they want to be in our great country, but they just have to lead by example. Don't ask your men and women to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. You want to be there with them. You want to know as much as they do in the positions that they're in. If you're a platoon leader, you want to know how to use all of your weapons and how to call in artillery and mortar fire. So you want to just lead by example. And that's important. We teach that at Fort Benning, not to ask your men and women to do anything you wouldn't do yourself.
So setting the example arises first and foremost among the leadership traits, the leadership attributes and competencies that we ask of our leaders, not just in the military, but also in the civilian world. But specifically, of course, we're involved with telling the Army story one soldier at a time. And I thank you for your time. What we want to do now is, Tim, we're going to shift over. Perhaps we've got some questions that in the loop.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Thank you, Colonel Bussler, and hello, everyone. I'm Tim Nelson, and I'm honored to serve as the Chief of Development for the Army Heritage Center Foundation. I'm going to be asking Colonel Marm the questions that you've submitted on the question and answer session. There are tons of them, and we're going to do the best that we can. Good afternoon, Colonel Marm. It's good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you, Tim. Thank you for all you're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as I said, we're going to get right into it, and there are tons of them. So let me start. Here's one for you. How accurate was the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young to the actual battle, and was it hard for you to watch or relive it?
It's a very inspiring movie. The music was played by the some of the music was played by the West Point Glee Club, and it's very inspiring to hear that at the end. And they show a reel of all the soldiers that were killed in the battle. And the movie is Colonel Moore said it's about 60% accurate. The troopers, we always said it's about 70% accurate. They were making a Hollywood movie and not a documentary. They would merge names, like they used my company commander's name, Captain Tony Nadal, but he played, both A and B company. And my action was it was done on the second day of charging that anthill. And it was, they didn't use my name in the movie. They used Lieutenant Gahagan, who was a very special guy. He was a Peace Corps volunteer after college, and then joined our army and fought with us. But he was killed in that battle. And the movie, I thought Sam Elliott, who played the Sergeant Major Plumley, was and it was just he kind of made the movie with some of his one-liners, but it was I thought it was a very good movie. I saw it two premieres, one at West Point with an entire class in their big new theater that they had then back in the movie come out in 2002, and I sat next to Mrs. Moore, which was very unique, the battalion commander's wife. And she was a very special lady. She died 2 years later in 2004. And they wanted to be buried with the troopers that were killed in the battle in the Fort Benning Cemetery that were buried there. And it was all filled up, but our company commander, our company RTO, Sergeant Gell, Jack Gell, his wife gave her plot to the Moores. So Mrs. Moore was buried there, and Colonel Moore, when he died a few years ago, was buried there also. So that's unique and very special. But it was they made the movie at Fort Benning, and they filmed it at Fort Benning, and they filmed it out in California at the Presidio. Bruce Crandall had an RV back then, and he was at a lot of the filming of the movie to make sure it was done right. And he was very impressed with the way they handled it and did it. And so it was, and that's what Vietnam was, the battle area. It wasn't heavy jungle like you think of in Vietnam. It was elephant grass and shrubs, like I mentioned before. And they portrayed that out in California at the Fort Ord area, Monterey, at Fort Ord.
Thank you, sir. Here's a question from Brett. Brett says, how do you keep a clear mind whenever situations go awry, or when you're faced with having to make a sacrifice?
That's a very good question. How do you keep a clear mind? You just have to, look at all your options and try to do the, pluses and minuses, and try to do the best you can with what you have.
Thank you. Tiffany says, Colonel Marm, I had the honor of meeting you a few years ago at General Moore's memorial. You took the time to speak with my son about your experiences in the Scouts. Her son wears the first Cav patch on his Scout uniform. He's now finishing his Eagle Scout project.
Good.
She thanks you for the time that you spent with him. My question is that as we take our young trainees through some of their history and heritage training, LZ X-ray is one of the key battles we discuss in accordance with their training. If you could pass along one message, if you had the opportunity to be in front of these trainees, and I'm not sure if it's Scout, it sounds like it's Scouted Scouts. What would that message be that you'd want to impart to them?
again, I go back to leading by example. You have great men out there, and you want to be as good as they are in all the skills that they have, because if and we practice that and do that using other weapons and other things to be able to take up the leadership position if it comes to that. And that happened with that platoon, who was all the chain of command was killed or wounded, and a young E5 buck sergeant, which is the lowest ranking sergeant, took over, and he never lost another man killed or wounded in that battle, Sergeant Ernie Savage, and was able to put mortar and artillery fire all around his position and kept the enemy at bay after three attacks. One was led by a bugle charge. One thing the enemy didn't have that helped us, they were fresh into country, and their heavy mortars had not arrived yet, and their anti-aircraft unit had not arrived yet. So that really helped us out. Plus, they had never been in combat with a unit that they were used to trucks and providing doing ambushes on roads, primarily roads, which and there were no roads or trails around LZ X-ray, and so that was, they thought they were safe, they were pretty safe there. And we had great support from all the services. The Air Force provided very good close air support. We had a B-52 strike on the second day up around the Chupong Mountain. That's the first time that the B-52 were that provided close support like that. And one of the enemy said that one of the enemy commanders said the B-52 strike went away from his position. Had it come his way, it would have killed him. So General Moore and some of the soldiers went back there many times. And there's a sergeant named Bill Beck, who was an assistant machine gunner. His machine gunner was wounded severely in a helmet, in the injury to the head. And Bill was able to get him back and get him back to the command post to get some aid and assistance. And Bill took over the machine gun and just put a ring of steel on the flank of our position to keep the enemy at bay. He went back on another trip with some of the other first Cav guys and found that helmet that Adams, his machine gunner named Adams, had been hit with. And so he brought it back and gave it to him. They also have a letter at the Heritage Center that was General Moore wrote to his wife on the morning of the battle on the 14th of November. That's very unique. Yes. Telling her that everything is okay. So that's very, very special too, that you have that at the Heritage Center.
Thank you, sir. So Tyler asked, in your 30 years of service, how did you witness the Army change and adapt as time moved on? Various changes in technology, policies, and other things. How did you see the change of the Army occur?
I think it changed for the better. The same thing with us when we went in. We had World War II guys. Our weapons got better. We had, like I mentioned, we had the M1, the M14, and then we got the M16. Our weapons were good. Our uniforms were better. We went from cotton fatigues to jungle fatigues. I went back in '69. I was there in Vietnam for the whole year of '69 with the first Cav again in jungle fatigues. We didn't have that. So the cotton fatigues were very, they would get, they were heavy and they just weren't very good. We didn't have good boots. We had regular leather boots. We got better boots. We got jungle boots. Were much lighter and much more efficient. Our physical training program, improved. When I first went in, it was a 5-event physical training test. You had to have grenades. You had to have a dodge, run, and jump. You had to have horizontal ladders, and you did a mile run in in your jungle, in your regular PT uniform. And we didn't have it in your regular fatigues with boots. And so we got PT uniforms. We could run in sneakers, and we changed the PT to 3 event. So you didn't need any equipment. The 2-mile run, push-ups, and sit-ups. And based on your age, the younger you were, the more you had to do to make 100%. So in our leadership, we had more instruction for our junior leaders too, our NCOs. We had more courses for them to learn and to adapt and to try to become better leaders. We didn't have those initially when I first went in. So the Army, is much more efficient now in terms of all the technical equipment we have now too. But it's still a ground pounding force. We still need the infantry and all the other services too, the artillery, and it's a great Army. I'm very happy to have retired with 30. I worked with the Army Reserves, and it made me appreciate the Reserves and the Guard, who have their family, their military duties and their civilian duties to keep up in the air, and to try to do the best they can with all three: the family, the military, and their civilian jobs. That's very special.
Thank you. We have a veteran here writing, John. John asked, John was in country, by the way, in 70 and 71. He said, you were able to obtain intelligence of that you've related during this presentation about the enemy. He thought it was very, very informative and was curious how you guys obtained that information. How did that come to you as a unit, as an organization?
We got the intelligence in many ways. It came down, we had all kind of sophisticated devices. We used our reconnaissance units to both air and ground to find out where the enemy was, and our other services too helped us with our radar and all of our air support that we had to try to get the intelligence to us. And it came down through the intelligence community down to our intelligence officer at our battalion, who then passed it on to the in fact, my second tour in '69, I was a battalion intelligence officer for a while. I also, so that helped, and I knew, and I would give that information out to my company commanders, who would pass it on to his unit on where the enemy and what they could expect to be out there. So that helped, and so they could prepare better with weapons and preparing to meet the enemy and to take care of them with with our weapons and sophisticated equipment.
Thank you for that, sir. We've got time for a couple of more. Let's try this one. This is from Christopher. Christopher says that he is a CB and honored to have completed training in the Army's engineer group 12 Delta and 12 Tango. You mentioned camp improvements when you got there. Just curious, were these improvements completed by your platoon, or the Army engineers? The CBs come in, were the locals? How did these improvements occur at the camp?
The engineers did a great job. I'm not sure about CBs, whether they came in or they could have, but I was wounded and evacuated, so we were very, very busy, clearing our fields of fire out around the division perimeter. You can imagine having a division perimeter. It required one brigade to provide security while the other two brigades were out maneuvering. In fact, General Kennard, who was our division commander and also with us during our test phase, wanted to put our unit in Cambodia, where it didn't require as much security, and so all three units could be out maneuvering, but that didn't happen. We were right in the central highlands, blocking the flow from the north of the North Vietnamese soldiers. And we were a very early unit too, so that was unique too. And to have the helicopters to take us everywhere we went was very, very, very special. They were our main source of transportation. We didn't have many trucks and vehicles. We had some smaller vehicles, like it was called a gamma goat.
Or boots, smaller vehicles called boots. Yeah. Last question, sir, before I turn it back over to you guys. And this question's actually been asked in every session so far. But when you think about sacrifice and what it takes to, I guess, have the heart for that or the courage to do that, oftentimes, and this attendee wants to know, what was your motivation, if you think back on that, to do what you did and for those around you?
You know, I just wanted to get to that platoon, and that was our main mission that day, to get to that platoon. And so it was, we had great troops, and I just wanted to, and I did lead by example. I wouldn't ask my soldiers to do anything that I wouldn't do myself.
Thank you, sir. Well, we have many more questions, but that's all we have time for today. We want to honor the time we set aside for this. And to those, for those questions we didn't get to, I'm pleased to tell you that Colonel Marm has graciously agreed to provide answers via email. So as long as we have your email, look forward to answering those questions. Colonel Marm, it is an honor to see you again, sir. And Colonel Vossler, thank you not only for today, but for this entire series, sir. It's been
I tell the young troops. Yeah.
I'm sure that all attendees would agree that our time together was most inspiring. But before I turn it back over to Colonel Vossler, I have the privilege of unveiling that surprise that Colonel Vossler talked about. Now, this series that we were honored to put on was supposed to be a 7-part series, this being the finale. But the recipients have enjoyed this so much, and they've been so pleased with your feedback. It's been so positive that they have offered to come together for a live virtual roundtable. So there'll be a group of these recipients together. We're getting a lot of commitments so far. It's going to be fabulous. So please mark your calendars for December the 3rd at 5:30 Eastern. This is sure to be a powerful 90-minute session with several Medal of Honor recipients. Pass this word to your friends, pass the invitations to your friends, and we'll see you all on the 3rd. Colonel Vossler, Tom, back to you, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Well, Joe, my good friend and comrade, thank you for joining us tonight. And I just want to say that to the audience, if you didn't get enough of Joe's story, go to the book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young. It is very well written, co-authored by Joe Galloway and Colonel Moore, and it is very accurate in its portrayal. And if you have not seen the movie, Joe spoke about the movie, take time to see it. I believe that it is the most accurate. I'm not saying 100%, but of all the movies made of the Vietnam War, in my experience, it's the most accurate portrayal of what really happened, as opposed to some of the fringe ones that, now, it's a good movie, good book. So further education right here. And with that, my friend Joe, thank you, buddy.